Hi, I'm doing laundry today. Uh, I went to that Writers Brigade yesterday, and it was pretty cool. There was lots of interesting people there. It was a very diverse crowd of white people. Um, there was the guy who was speaking talked on he talked about time management, and he gave a lot of his ideas, a lot of his opinions, and people were talking about like their their uh, uh, issues with time management and prioritizing and whatnot. I took a lot of notes. It was a lot of fun. It was kind of inspiring just to be around a lot of writers. Was amazing. Um, this is what I was hoping for a long time, was to find like a group of creative people and become a kind of a part of them. There was this guy who sat across from me. He kind of reminded me of Hunter S. Thompson, and he writes westerns. And there's a guy who writes science fiction. There was a guy who wrote true crime stories. There's a woman who wrote self-help and meditation books. There was this one guy who said he wrote spiritual books, dealing with the shadow self. I think he's talking about the Jungian shadow self, but I couldn't quite understand what he was talking about. But he's gonna be speaking next week, and the topic will be mysteries, that genre. So I just piecing together, just kind of living in the moment and enjoying the creative process. I started jotting notes about. I once wrote a short story about a guy who was obsessed with time management, and I might resurrect this character a little bit and put him in the genre of. I think he would fit nicely in a murder mystery. So I'm working that out, and I was reading in the Sid Field book about developing a character, putting the character in a situation, and that's how the character develops. And it's weird. I turned on Johnny Carson, and Tony Randall was on, and he was talking about a novel that he wrote, and he was talking about the process, and he was talking about the same thing that Sid Field was talking about creating a character and then putting the character in a certain situation and then learning about that character through that situation, and the character begins to write himself. I'm curious, what I want to ask is, how do you name the character? Because I've found I named the character obsessed with scheduling. I named him Mark. I thought the name was appropriate. I once wrote a story about a guy who was trying to find a girl, and I named him Willie Finder. And when I was reading the Sid Field story, he was talking about a writing class he was teaching, and they created a character, and they named this character Sarah. But in my mind immediately goes to Sarah Connor. And I'm thinking about, if I was to write a character who was frantically trying to get someone to understand something, then I would name this character Sarah. And because it's a shortcut to me, because when I read a lot of Stephen King, well, I don't read a lot of Stephen King, but the Stephen King books I have read in the past, I enjoyed the books, but getting through the character description and all the backstories, I found it really boring and hard to get through. So I like to take shortcuts with that. And I think about how the human mind is wired to take shortcuts. The human mind, your synapses, they go a certain way, and the brain kind of works like a river going down a mountain. and we kind of like accept a certain pattern, a way of thinking. It takes a little effort to dig new channels, but I kind of like to play with the way the mind already makes association. So like, you know, in my mind, reading about a Sarah all brings Sarah Connor to mind. So with that, I once wrote a story, and I named the character, I named him Norm, which, and I gave him a wife that was very nagging, and I didn't have to like talk much about their relationship, because the way she says Norm, I'm hearing like Norman Bates, his mother, and I'm hope like if someone else read it, that they would also read as with that same voice, and if they don't, it's fine. But for me, it eliminates the necessity of building up this whole backstory and explaining a lot. I like to figure out ways to use as few words as possible, because I like the idea that, you know, less is more. I think that's all I was going to talk about. So you guys have a good day, and remember that in order to walk towards the dawn, you must first put your slippers on.